remarks, and then we'll end the afternoon in a time of prayer that John's going to lead as we get to that. We've got probably 10, maybe 15 minutes more to share with you. They're going to ask you to think and process for about 10 or 15 minutes maybe, and then we'll do the prayer and we'll be done. Our goal is to be on the road by 2 o'clock, so just kind of tell you where we're going. What we're going into now is kind of how does this stuff work out at our churches? And the majority of what we're going to talk about is Conejo, because I've been doing ministry there for 25 years. Brendin's only been at Hilltop for 3 or 4. And Brendin was at Conejo for a big part of that time, right? So most of this is going to come from Conejo. I just wanted to clarify that so you wouldn't think that one church is doing good stuff, the other church isn't. Because, even though Hilltop doesn't always handle the Conejo, it's okay. That was just for him. Anyway, that was just messing with my son. But anyway, as we go into this, we can't emphasize enough, and I hope it comes out of this, but it might not. But we have both and. When you're in ministry, I think it's almost always a both and. We have both times with students alone, by themselves, doing their thing, differentiation from the church, from their parents, doing adolescent stuff with their peers, and them doing it with adults. You can't do it one or the other. You're going to miss out. You really need both. And the one-eared Mickey Mouse is breaking away from doing that exclusively, of having just kids. Okay? And thankfully, in the Church of Christ, we're not there, never have been. And I think that's a really good thing, because how in the world can they, a mega church or community church back off from this when they have a paid junior high worship staff that does worship with their kids on Sunday morning? How are you going to say, hey, we're not going to do that anymore, without cutting all these people? You don't have a job anymore. So they've got a lot of mechanisms working against them coming back to where they need to be. We never went there. So we're really in a good place for that. At least that's my assessment, for what it's worth. So as we go into this, Brendin and also will jump in once in a while on the Conejo stuff. And we're sharing with you some of our out-of-the-box, crazy spot in the back of your brain ideas that our kids came up with that allowed some things to happen that integrated our churches. So I'm not saying you have to do all the things we've done. These are just examples of what had happened in our churches, or our churches as we went. And this is not advancing.
Well, it's working here.
What'd you do?
The computer's moving, but the TV.
The TV froze.
Okay. Ryan can fix it.
Just run it.
Okay.
So,
Let me see what that
rebooted. What's the word?
Turn the TV on and off.
Exactly.
Turn the TV on and off.
Why would it be showing you one?
Go ahead, Jack. I got this.
So we're talking about making faith stick, and we wanted to look at how do we do that. Let me give you my philosophy. When I came to Conejo, it was 1993, and since 1987, they had been going to San Felipe, Mexico, building a house every summer. And that was something that was not just a youth group event. Yeah, the youth group's the only ones who went, but the whole church was behind that. And when I came to Conejo, hired as youth minister, I was the only full-time minister on staff. There was no paid preacher. There was no children's minister. They were so convinced they needed to be working with their kids that they hired a youth minister. And had, the other part of that was Conejo is so close to Pepperdine that we have like 70% of our congregation has PhDs. So we had lots of people who could preach, but nobody that wanted to be with the high school kids. So, so that's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's not too far from the truth. So they hired a professional to do the youth group stuff, and we'll handle the preaching, on our own. Here we go. And so when I came in, that mission trip was a core of what was happening in the church. And the youth group was the only show in town as far as Conejo was concerned. Let's pour everything into our youth group because they recognized how important it was. And so when I stepped in and said, so how do you raise the money to go, like, in 1993, $12,000 to take 30 kids down to Mexico and build a house? Where are you getting that money from? And they said, oh, well, we just kind of give it. And I thought, okay, I can see down the road things are getting more expensive. And I don't always feel very comfortable coming to my church saying, we need $15,000 this year. I need $17,000 this year. Please just write that check so I can take kids to Mexico. I thought that's not very self-sustainable, right? So thinking through all of these reasons about what could we do that would make fundraisers for this mission trip more than just a fundraiser. So the philosophy that we landed on through a lot of prayer and wrestling was we want every single fundraiser that we do to be a ministry event that integrates our kids with adults. It needs to be a fun fellowship for the church and an excuse for those who want to support the kids to be able to give money. So, you know, we went through all kinds of things, but I landed on this that works really well for us. We allow the kids to brainstorm and think about how we're going to do this, and they do some kind of event that's going to bless the church. And when we come together at that time, that fellowship, that game night, that whatever that is, there is a donation box, and everyone knows this night we are here for Mexico. And so that's been going on for the last 25 years, and I never have any problem making the money. I know that if things got crazy, I could go, look, in 3 weeks, we're needing to raise $25,000, and we're going to take one collection from Mexico. The money would be there because people believe in what's going on. But I want to give the church something in return. So we use these events as fellowship and relationship building times that give people a moment and an excuse to write a check for 75 or 100 or whatever they want to put into the mission trip. So we do that several times. But what that's done is allow our kids to take ownership of brainstorming what those things might be. So we decided that the number one goal in ministry for us is building positive memories and tying those memories to Christ.
That's nice.
Okay? Now, that sounds pretty simplistic, but as you think through it, I wanted every one of our kids from cradle roll through senior and high school to be having a great time at church, doing things that are significant and important, so when they get older and they say, man, what was the best part of your childhood? Oh, it was those harvest festivals that happened every time. My church would load up with all kinds of people, and we'd do all kinds of fun carnival games, and wow. Or that time our families all got together and went down to the City of Children in Mexico. That was always a blast. It was hilarious. Or, you know, I want these things, their greatest memories as a child, to be connected to church. And so sometimes those will be spiritual moments when they're a prayer. I mean, we've done prayer stations for the entire family. It would take, you know, an hour and a half on a Sunday night to go through this. But people would talk and laugh and love and work through these different prayer stations, asking them to do something and put these things down and walk through them. And they're great memories for our kids. Because I sat with this person and talked about faith. Or you know, one was, I could go through all these in detail. I could take forever. But one station, I'll give you as an example, we were doing the whole, like the book of Genesis, right? Let's cover it on one night. How in the world are you going to do that? Well, you take each story and make a prayer station out of it. So we had one room, we had covered with all these pictures of temptations. And everything that was offered out there, we talked about Eve's temptation. And let kids look at it on that and say, around this room, what stands out to you the most? Write down your temptation. And parents and kids are doing this together. What gets in your way? What is it that would cause you to walk away from Jesus? What is it? And that's one room. They walk out here. There's a giant Lego ark that's not quite done, you know, and a box of Legos. It's like we're trying to build the ark because Noah was given this opportunity. So pick up, put a place, you know, a piece on the ark, and pick up a piece of paper and say, if I were going to add to what I've done in my life that would cause God to want to flood the earth again, what is it? Put your Lego on, write your thing down, and put it in the bucket. Reflecting on my sin and my pain, you know, and we just do all kinds of these things. It took about an hour and a half for people to walk through all these stations, but they were in prayer and conversation and on biblical stuff together in creative ways, and all of a sudden they're like, I remember the book of Genesis. And I remember what's going on. And I did that with Emily Powell, who's 75 years old and I'm 15. You know, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So those kinds of things are helpful. It's building positive memories, tying those memories to Christ. And the kids will remember that, and it hooks them in. So intergenerational ministry projects we do. This is some kids at the local elementary school that we are tutoring. The local elementary school for us is the lowest income school. It's where my kids went to school, not because we're broke, but because we live in that neighborhood. And I was on school site council for a while, and this school was, in the time that he was there, was from 67% to 82% students for whom English was their second language. So these are the kids that are behind in everything, and we decided, let's break in and see what we can do. And we started doing a lot of things for this. We're tutoring, and have been for 5 years. We take all of their first graders and people from Conejo, because of our highly educated congregation, are tutoring 1 night a week these first graders whose families don't speak English at home, but they're having to learn to read English at school. How difficult must that be? But we're jumping in and doing that and connecting. So this is one of my youth group girls sitting at the same table with one of my senior saints, tutoring first graders. That's great stuff. This one is a walk for water that we did, and you can see we have strollers all the way up to people. I think the oldest guy was 72, who took a 5-mile walk, and we had all kind of taken pledges from families all over the country or whatever, and we raised enough money to drill 2 wells in India, just by doing a 5K walk together. But we did that walk. That's something we typically do as a youth group, right? The youth group will get together and do this project. Please support them in the project. We said, no. The youth group is heading this up. They're talking to you about it. They're organizing it, but we want all of you to join them and do it with them. So when we took this walk, there were families walking together. And, you take a 5-mile walk, and there were things in there that happened that we didn't even think about. We have a food bank that's across the street from us, and it's right in the middle of the heart of the poorest area in town. 5 miles from there, up on the top of a hill, one of our family lives in a very palatial, nice home. I didn't think about this. I wasn't that clever. I just said, that's about 5 miles away. And, would you take all this stuff and keep it at your house? Because we're going to leave the church building, walk about a half mile up to your house, then everybody's going to grab 3 gallons of water or 3 gallons of juice, because this represents what women in the third world do every day, go get water and walk home with it. We're going to go to your house, grab the water, and walk to the food bank and donate it there. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. What I didn't think about was no one in my community really thinks about the disparity of economics until you walk to this palatial home, pick up 3 gallons of water, and you're a teenager walking with a 45-year-old, or a mom with a stroller walking with someone who is a teenager. And you're talking as you're walking from this house into this neighborhood, into the next neighborhood, down in a poorest neighborhood, and realize in a very short span, we just changed from 20,000 a year to 200,000 a year. Oh my goodness, that's all right here. And it opened the eyes of our congregation as they walked together and did this stuff. That's a huge memory that is connected to we're doing something for people across the world, but opening our eyes about what's going on here. And those kinds of things just kind of were a great serendipity for us. Building positive memories. We did it also through ministry events. So the first one was intergenerational ministry projects, which I call just one little thing we're going to run out and do. The other one is events. This is our fall retreat. We do a fall retreat for all of our families, and we really encourage all families to go, and they get up and do all kinds of things. It's a great time together. This one is from our Harvest Festival. One of our people, this guy right here, David Green, is a chemist, scientist at Pepperdine, and he just absolutely loves doing science stuff. So he shows up every year and plays the mad scientist and makes Dippin' Dots right there with liquid nitrogen and ice cream stuff, and it's just part of that Harvest Festival that we do every year that really draws. We invite all of the kids and the families that we're tutoring for at Conejo School to come on Halloween and have a great time with carnival games and all that stuff at our church. We're building those relationships. This is our City of Children trip, where families go down together and work with the orphanages at City of Children and do meals and hang out with them and spend that time. And this is our senior night. And we make a big deal out of our graduating seniors. And so the entire senior Sunday is all about them. It's the regular worship service, we do all that stuff, but in the middle of that, at our family news time, where we're typically doing announcements, we invite each one of them up. We pray over them. We give them a Bible and say, we've given you foundations. We hope you go. We talk about roots and wings. We've tried to give you the roots to go deep into Christ. Now we want to give you the wings to fly out, leave the nest, and become the people God meant for you to be. And then invite everyone to come back that night. And it's a huge dinner and banquet where the parents get up and talk about each one of these kids. Right. So we're honoring what's going on with these families in that really pivotal moment of transition, but in a way that highlights these kids. And it's a whole church event. It's not just a youth group event. So that's a connection going through. So those are our ministry events that happen every year that we go through that are intentionally driven at intergenerational connection. Next is our mission fundraisers, which I've talked about. This is where all things come in and it goes crazy. I love this one right here. This has been going on for a long time. As I've talked about our philosophy on the fundraisers, I really do sit down with the kids. I don't anymore. Travis Moore, our youth minister, does this now. He's been with us just over a year. But we would sit down with them and say, okay, we need to have 6 fundraisers this year. What are they going to be? And I had 2 guys. Brendin was a junior, I think, when these 2 guys come and said, hey, you know what? We know a lot of Pepperdine kids who go to Heidelberg, and they come back, and one of the crazy things they talk about is Oktoberfest is nuts over there. And I go, yeah, you're in Germany. You know, it is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. What are you getting at? And we think we should do an Oktoberfest here at church. And I was like, oh, good grief. What are you talking about? It's root beer. Let's make it a root beer festival. And I went, that is never going to fly. That's what's going on inside my head. And I'm thinking, talk to me about that. You've been around enough. They said, yeah, we want to get root beer and root beer floats and brats and turn the backyard of the church building into an Oktoberfest with root beer and floats and brats and pretzels and just have this great festival as a fundraiser. And I was like, I don't know if that one's going to fly. And I went to the elders and said, look, this is what the guys would like to do, and they're really enthusiastic about it. And every one of my elders went, that would be hilarious. Are you kidding me? The Church of Christ. So what did I do? I went down to BJ's restaurant, because that was the best root beer I knew of. They brewed their own. And I said, hey, would you donate a keg of root beer? Why? I explained, yeah, I come driving back to the church with a keg of root beer in the back of my car and a tap that they've given me. And that Sunday night, I set up a tap, and we're doing root beer from the tap, doing root beer floats and brats, and everybody's showing up with their friends, and everybody's having a blast. This is the 8th year in a row that we've done Root Beer Festival, because the congregation loves it. And as a part of the night, we have a silly hat contest, or we have a silly this or that, and we end up, we do the apple strudel contest, and whoever wins the contest gets, a dinner at a German restaurant or whatever. But the donation box is out, and little kids growing up going, I can't wait till I get to serve the brats. I can't wait till I get to wear the silly hat and carry the pretzels around. These kind of things become part of the culture that says, my church cares enough about me to let me do a root beer festival in the backyard. I mean, that's the kind of thing that has been really helpful. This other one was from a brand new one they came up with last year. That was a lip sync, and I'm like, okay, how's this going to work? And the kid's like, no, it'll be awesome. Well, we told the church in advance, on this Sunday night, we're having a lip sync, just a show. And you can lip sync any song you want to sing. It's got to be cleared by Travis. And he's scrutinizing on the lyrics and make sure the songs are appropriate. But we had, 5 moms get up and do this lip sync, and it was hilarious, and everybody loved it. And there's desserts and coffee served out there, and that's the whole night. Whoever wants to lip sync, we're doing this stuff. The acts are hilarious. The adults and kids are in it. The donation box is out there, and we raised $2,000 that night with everybody doing lip sync. So that's why I say these fundraisers become an excuse for people to find a place to put the money in the box for our mission trip. But they're also people who won't miss this because that's so much fun, I want to be there. We begin by saying, remember we're doing this so that we can raise money to go down to Mexico and build a house. And so everything we're doing tonight is really done to the glory of God. And we open and close with a prayer. Not that this is a worship service in the traditional sense, but I believe God is glorified when his kids enjoy each other. And that's what's going on. Because I've never seen my 3 kids come into the house and start having a blast together. And I go, would you knock it off? You're supposed to be praying. And I think God goes, look, my kids are loving each other. And relationships are built. And this is going to make a huge difference down the road for these kids when they remember it. And I'm like, yes, God, that's what we're trying to do. This is good. I'm glad you got it. And so we think outside the box on that stuff, and it makes a difference for us. Then the last one I want to share with you is these practical takeaways from Sunday morning worship. We want to give people something to walk out and to do. That they can do as a family. You can also do it as an individual. That's no big deal. So I'm really sensitive about not being, doing something that excludes our older widows or our young singles who are alone. Okay? We don't want to make them feel that they're not good or they don't fit. But we do these takeaways and say, take this and please do this week, whether it's with your family or whether it's by yourself. But just 3 ideas that we threw out. I was doing a series on fasting, and so in the middle of it, right in the middle, or on spiritual disciplines, in the middle of the fasting sermon, I stopped and said, so what I want you to do is pull out the card that's under your chair, and it had a nicely written thing and said, I want you to write, this week I'm committing to fast in this way. And write that down, hang on to it, and then at the end of the service, I said, what I want you to do before you leave here is pull that card out, ask you to write, show it to someone else, and somewhere before you get after lunch or whatever, I want you to pray for whoever shared their card with you, that God will give them the strength to follow through on their commitment. And that happens on every age level. So it's just something practical that they can take away, but we asked them to do it in families. And so I said, in your families, I want you to be checking with each other this week. What did you say you're going to fast from? And when are you going to do that? And how can I help you? Should I join you? What's going on? Make that a conversation at home. We haven't done this a couple of years. We're about to do it in a few weeks. We go to C's Candies, and they do these little individual box candies for bridal showers or for weddings or whatever. And so we buy 200 or 300, whatever we think we're going to have at church that morning. And at the end of that day, say, okay, these are all on the table out here. 90% of you are going to lunch when you leave here, right? What we want you to do is take one of these candies and give it to your server or the hostess or whatever. And when they say, wow, what is this for? You go, no, it's just, our church asked us to do this today. So, here, this is for you. Have a great day. What church do you go to? Boom. Conversation.
A really sweet one.
Yeah. But to have families thinking about this, how are we going to do this? And you give them the excuse and the reason to take that one step, And maybe the next thing they do is like, oh yeah, this is from our church. By the way, we're going to pray after you bring our food. What can we pray for you about? Right. I mean, that's pretty simple, but most of us don't think to do it. But it can have a massive impact. This last one over here is, we actually got it from the Camarillo church next door. Luke McAllister is 19 years old, has pretty severe autism, and yet he had this idea. He wanted to do something about the homeless problem, and so he started putting these bags together with the help of his mom. And our youth group went over and put together 200 bags that have just some, Nutella and a little water bottle and $2 cash and a granola bar, and then a note that says this was put together the idea of a boy named Luke who's 19, has autism, and we just wanted to bless you today, and a couple verses in the middle of that bag. And this sits out in our auditorium, and periodically, as we did this in a sermon, and then we reminded people afterwards, this week grab a couple Luke bags and find some homeless people to just hand them to. And I guarantee you that there are families whose little kids are going, Mom, there's a homeless guy, get the Luke bag. What a great thing for families to begin doing. So it's just these simple things that they take away from worship that begin to integrate the family ministering together, not in deep, profound ways, but boy, they're deep and profound, aren't they?
Yes.
As kids start to learn that. So that's some of the things that have helped us have these things begin working themselves out at Conejo. So, Hilltop.
Couple quick things from Hilltop. Some things that worked well. The first thing is that ministry is in relationship. And so the thing we want is relationships with students, as we talked about, but also relationships between adults and students, and adults that aren't parents. And so there's a couple ways that we do this. The number one way is through mentoring groups. And what this is Sunday mornings, every other week during class, I have volunteer adults take a small group of teens. And I'll have a couple guys with the high school guys, and I'll have a couple of adults with the high school or the middle school boys, and then I'll have a couple girls with the high school girls and a couple girls with the middle school girls, and they go off during class time, and those mentors are free to do whatever they want with those kids. They take them to Starbucks, they sit around at the middle school and play a game, or they talk some spiritual stuff maybe, but they're developing relationships with a specific set of kids every other week consistently, so that all of a sudden those mentoring adults show up at a baseball game on Wednesday, or they come with us to Mexico to chaperone our mission trip, or they come to camp, and there are relationships. Now all of a sudden I have all my high school guys that have a close relationship with these two adult men in our church, and they're talking through life with them, and it's 2 of the 5, right? The 5-to-1 ratio. I'm automatically giving them 2 adults that are interested in them and are pouring into them. And that has become a very systemic, healthy way that my kids not only relate to each other in small groups, but to an adult who's not their parent, right? And I'm in regular contact with my mentor saying, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing? How is it going? What's some stuff that's coming up? That sort of stuff, so that I'm on the same page with the mentors, and the mentors are now pouring into the kids. And that's one of the easy ways that, you know what, it works really well at Hilltop. Sometimes it's hard to recruit enough adults, but right now I've got a great cycle where it's healthy enough where I've got adults that want to be a part, and I just don't have space for them right now. Like, that's great. You could get involved with the students in other ways, but if the spot opens on Sunday morning, I'll let you know, right? And it's one of those easy ways where I really don't have to do anything. Every other week on Sunday morning, I'm off, because I'm like, all right, adults, meet up with your kids, like, go have fun mentoring. I'll see you Tuesday night, you know. And it's this beautiful thing where all of a sudden I have adults pouring into kids. And this has also led to relationships between the mentors themselves, where I'll have 2 guys that want to pour into high school guys. They don't know each other, but they start pouring into the same kids. All of a sudden, there's a relationship formed between those 2 adults too. And it's building bridges across multi-generational with the kids and with the adults, where all of a sudden we're all getting tied closer together. And it's a beautiful system, okay? And then obviously the mentoring to the student, there's relationship, powerful relationship there. And the cool thing about this is that those mentoring groups, we've been doing them ever since I started. And now those mentoring groups happen, they go do stuff together outside of Sunday morning. They will go to somebody's play that Friday night as a group. We're like, hey, are you coming? Like, let's go. Or they'll go see a movie Sunday afternoon because they're together. They like each other. They've been doing life together. So all of a sudden, it's no longer just a church thing. This is just another group of friends. And yeah, there's 2 adults with us, but they're cool, you know. That's a powerful thing where it's systemic in Hilltop, where it's just happening. And it's beautiful when I hear about 6 of my high school girls getting together on a Friday night. I'm like, why were you girls together? Like, you don't hang out at school? Oh, well, we were with our mentoring group. Like, I had nothing to do with it, and it's just happening.
Nice.
That's the cool thing about that system. The other thing, meeting where they are. With teens, it's, especially in California, I can't just walk onto a high school campus. That is illegal. Because of stuff, you know, I can't, I am limited in a lot of ways from meeting friends of friends, meeting friends of my high school guys or my high school girls or middle schoolers. And so meeting them where they are is really important and powerful. And that partially means creating spaces for them to come and feel like they're involved, feel like it's easy for them to enter. That's why paintball days for our high school guys are just a win. It's just like, all of the high school guys in El Segundo want to go paintballing for $5, and that is easy thing. That's something we're doing. This picture here is a picture of bonfires we do in the summer, and every Tuesday night we do a massive bonfire on Dock Valley Beach, which is the only place we can allow to do a bonfire. But I literally go in a pickup truck and get 8 to 12 pallets and build a tower of pallets and cook 80 hot dogs and have a 15-foot fire on the beach, and I get 60 kids showing up to this. Because the high school friends and the middle school friends all want to show up for a free hot dog, free burger, let's go boogie boarding, let's play some volleyball, let's sit around the biggest fire I've ever seen, and like just have fun every single Tuesday night in the summer from 5 to 9. And this is ballooned into now Conejo, their youth group drives down to join us. And 3 other churches from the area come and join us at our bonfires, and they're inviting friends. And so now all of a sudden, it has ballooned into, we've had 100, 120 kids at this bonfire, the biggest night sometimes, where it's gotten to a point where now I have to involve parents to take the bonfire next to us, the pit next to us, so that we have a little buffer zone from the rest of the public. And so now the parents are involved in that night too, and they're helping me cook because I can't cook 120 hot dogs. And so they're helping me cook, and they're helping me provide stuff, and all of a sudden the parents are coming too. They're coming separate away from the kids. The kids are having a blast. I'm getting to meet all of their friends. Their parents are there, getting to meet their friends' parents. And all of a sudden, this is just meeting them where they are, where it is so easy to invite somebody to a beach bonfire for a high schooler or a middle schooler. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, we have, 15-foot, I'm not exaggerating, 15-foot flame. Every middle schooler wants to see that, And it becomes relational pieces where I can meet them at the beach. It's legal for me to meet them at the beach. I can't walk onto their middle school campus, but I can meet them there, right? And so there's ways that you start creating ministry through relationships. And those are just a couple small ways that we're making it work at Hilltop. Yeah.
The thing that makes me laugh about this is, think about where he is. El Segundo, right next to LAX. The beach they're going is Dockweiler. And as you're sitting there on the beach, planes are like this to land.
Right.
They got this 15-foot bonfire. I bet you there are pilots going, who the heck is doing that? And they're coming down to figure out what's going on the beach. That's a cool thing. You got pilots coming and saying, I don't think that's really happening. But in my mind,
Not yet.
there are these passengers going, what is going on down there? They think it's a riot.
Yeah, they got to think it's right.
Every Tuesday.
Wild El Segundo.
But everyone along the beach who works, the lifeguards, all that stuff, this has been going on for years and years and years. And before Brendin was even there, they know about, that's a youth group, it's okay. Because none of them ever come over and say, you can't be doing a fire that big. They've learned by now that we're always going to do that.
I had a stop once. But then I told him, hey, we're a youth group. He was like, okay.
I've heard
Okay,
that.
keep it under 30 feet.
Yeah. Okay. What we want to do now is give you a moment to think about some of this stuff. So looking back over everything we've covered today, spent some time around your table, I thought we were your tables, discussing some possible next steps for ministry to children and teens in your context. So what I want you to do, I'm going to walk you through these questions and just find a back sheet or something and take a moment and think about these things for you, then we'll have you talk to everybody else. So first of all, choose one or two key concepts or ideas which stand out to you. What are they, and why do you think they're important? So take some time and answer that question for yourself right now. Then I'll go to the next question. Give you about 2 minutes for that one. One or two key concepts or ideas that are important or stand out to you.
There's a proverb that says a merry heart is like a good medicine.
Yeah.
It fits a lot of this.
It does, yeah. There's another proverb that says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. I've thought about it a lot, which is bonfire. So.
Proverbs 14:12.
Yeah.
You're such a show-off, Ray.
I wasn't gonna do that.
If there's one thing I've discovered today, it's how well Ray knows the scriptures.
We all discovered that.
No, that's a good thing. It's a good thing.